Ethan had always been an ordinary man. He lived in a small apartment on the edge of the city, worked a regular job at a local bookstore, and spent his evenings reading about things he could never truly touch. Ancient civilizations, strange stars in faraway galaxies, and myths that spoke of beings with incredible powers. Life for him was simple, predictable, and quiet. But Ethan had a curious mind, a spark that refused to let the ordinary be enough. One late evening, the bookstore had closed, and Ethan wandered through the nearby streets, enjoying the silence. The air smelled faintly of rain, and the dim streetlights cast long, uneven shadows across the sidewalks. On a whim, he turned into a narrow alley he had never noticed before. At the end of the alley was a small, unremarkable shop, its windows dusty and forgotten. A soft golden glow came from inside, unusual enough to pull Ethan closer. Inside the shop, dusty shelves were filled with objects that seemed centuries old. There were broken clocks, faded maps, jars of strange powders, and books with cracked leather covers. But what caught Ethan's attention was a small, intricately carved box sitting alone on a pedestal. It shimmered faintly as if it were alive. He could feel it calling to him. Ethan reached out, his fingers trembling slightly. The moment he touched the box, a sudden rush of wind and light burst from it. The room spun and a dazzling figure appeared before him. A being of radiant beauty floated in the center of the shop. Her hair shining like starlight, her eyes glowing with a deep, endless intelligence. Ethan froze, his heart hammering in his chest. "I am Leora," the being said, her voice melodic yet commanding, echoing as if it came from all directions at once. "I have been bound to this artifact for centuries, waiting for the one who could awaken me." Ethan blinked, unsure whether to believe his eyes. A genie?" he asked, his voice shaking. He had read stories of genies granting wishes in return for freedom or gold, but seeing one was nothing like he imagined. "Yes," Leora said with a faint smile, "and you, human, have awakened me. For that you are granted 3 wishes. But beware, wishes are not to be made lightly. They have consequences, some you may not foresee." Ethan stared at her, a strange mixture of fear, wonder, and curiosity filling his chest. He had expected this moment for years, but the reality of it was overwhelming. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of thoughts in his mind. Money, power, immortality? Those were the usual choices humans made in stories. But something inside him resisted the ordinary. I want to think first," he said slowly. "I don't want to waste this. If you're really real, I need to be careful." Leora's gaze softened and she nodded. "Very well. Take all the time you need. The choice is yours alone." For the next hour, Ethan wandered the shop, touching old maps and artifacts, feeling the weight of history in his hands. He thought of the world outside, the people, the animals, the forests and rivers, the oceans and mountains. The thought of gaining riches or power suddenly seemed meaningless. What good was gold if it could not help others? What was immortality if it left him alone with no understanding of life itself? When he turned back to Leora, her eyes seemed to shine brighter, as if she could sense the thoughts forming in his mind. "You are different from other humans," she said. "Most would ask for things to satisfy themselves. You are thinking beyond yourself. That is unusual." Ethan smiled faintly. "I want to understand the world better. Not just humans, but everything. The animals, the plants, even the tiniest creatures. I want to know what they feel, what they need, what they think." Leora blinked, clearly surprised. No human had ever asked for such a wish. Most had wanted wealth, power, or fame. To hear a human wish for understanding and connection was remarkable. "Are you certain?" she asked, her tone a mixture of curiosity and caution. "This is not a small wish. The world is full of life, and not all of it is easy to understand. There will be things that challenge you, frighten you, even overwhelm you." "I am certain," Ethan said, his voice steady. "I want to try." Leora's expression softened into something almost like admiration. "Very well. Your first wish is granted." A wave of light surrounded Ethan, warm and bright. It felt as though the air itself was alive, vibrating with energy and knowledge. Suddenly, he could hear the soft murmur of voices he had never noticed before. The trees outside the shop whispered to one another. Birds sang not just songs but stories of their travels. And even the small insects scuttling along the ground had their own quiet voices. The sounds were not loud, but they were clear and they carried meaning. Ethan staggered back, overwhelmed by the flood of new sensations. He sank to the floor, his mind racing as he listened. The world was alive in ways he had never imagined. A nearby flower explained how it turned toward the sun each morning. The ants shared stories of their colony, and a passing cat communicated thoughts of curiosity and caution. Every living being had a story, a perspective, a life that mattered. Leora floated beside him, watching intently. "Do you understand now?" she asked softly. "This is what you asked for. Every living thing has a voice. Every voice carries meaning. The world is more complex, more connected than you ever imagined." Ethan nodded slowly, tears filling his eyes. I can feel it. I can understand them. It's beautiful." "Yes," Leora said. "And it is only the beginning. You have been given a gift few humans could ever comprehend. How you use it, that will define not just your life, but the lives of many others." For the rest of the evening, Ethan sat quietly in the shop, listening and learning. He spoke to the trees outside, asked questions to the birds flying overhead, and marveled at the intricate networks of life that connected everything. He realized that humans, despite their intelligence, often overlooked these connections. They took the world for granted, never noticing the subtle ways life communicated with them. As night fell and the city lights flickered on, Ethan felt a new sense of purpose stirring within him. He understood now that his curiosity, his empathy, and his desire to connect with life were not just personal traits. They were the spark of something greater. Humans had the ability to understand, to protect, and to change the world in ways that no other species could. Leora watched him silently, her eyes reflecting both wonder and respect. She had served countless humans, granting wishes that were selfish or short-sighted. None had approached her with such clarity, such selflessness. This human, he was different. Perhaps, she thought, there was hope for humanity after all. As the first light of dawn began to creep through the dusty windows of the shop, Ethan looked out at the city with new eyes. The streets, the buildings, the people, they were all alive in ways he had never noticed before, and for the first time in his life he felt truly connected to the world around him. Leora's voice broke the silence. "Remember, Ethan, this is only your first wish. 2 remain. Choose them wisely, for they will shape the path ahead." Ethan nodded, a quiet determination in his heart. "I will, but for now, I want to learn to listen and to understand. That is enough for me tonight." And with that, he leaned back, closing his eyes as he let the voices of the world wash over him. The city outside continued its slow, steady rhythm, unaware that in a small, forgotten shop, a human had begun to see the world as it truly was, alive, vibrant, and full of wonder. For Ethan, the ordinary life he had once known was gone. In its place was something extraordinary, a connection to all living things, a gift that would change him forever. And somewhere in the glow of cosmic light, Leora smiled, knowing that this human was unlike any she had ever met, and that the story of his wishes had only just begun. The morning after Ethan's first wish began like any other day in the city, yet for him nothing felt ordinary. As sunlight spilled across his small apartment, he noticed the faint rustling of leaves outside his window, even though no wind stirred. Curious, he leaned closer to the windowsill. The tiny plant in the corner seemed to quiver as though greeting him. A soft hum tickled his ears, carrying a message he could now understand. "Good morning. The world is waking." Ethan blinked, amazed. The first wish had changed everything. He could hear the faint whispers of life all around him, from the smallest insect crawling across the floor to the pigeons pecking at crumbs outside. He could feel their thoughts, their needs, and even their emotions. It was overwhelming at first, a flood of new sensations and voices, but it was also beautiful. Each sound and movement painted a picture of the world he had never known existed. After breakfast, Ethan decided to explore this new ability. He stepped out into the city streets where the usual noise and chaos seemed transformed. Every living thing had a story to tell. The stray cat in the alley spoke of survival, of hunting for scraps, of avoiding dangers it could not fully understand. The crows perched on telephone wires argued among themselves about which places were safe to scavenge. Even the street trees shared tales of seasons, of weather, and of the countless creatures that had passed beneath their branches over decades. Ethan walked slowly, listening and responding softly. "I understand," he said to a small squirrel cautiously darting between cracks in the sidewalk. The creature froze, stared at him for a long moment, and then chattered its gratitude before running on. A warm feeling spread through Ethan's chest. He realized that the connection he now had to the world was not just a gift but a responsibility. He could hear life, but he could also help life, and that thought excited him. By mid-morning, news of unusual happenings in the city began to reach him. Animals, seemingly acting with greater intelligence than usual, were helping each other in ways people found remarkable. A group of dogs coordinated to rescue a kitten trapped on a roof. Pigeons led lost children back to their parents, and even bees seemed to guide gardeners to flowers that needed pollination. To any ordinary observer, these acts might seem strange, but to Ethan, they were stories, each full of meaning and purpose. He wandered into the park near his apartment, where life was especially vibrant. Children laughed as they played, unaware of the invisible network of life that Ethan could now perceive. Trees whispered among themselves, birds sang their histories, and tiny insects scuttled with careful precision. Ethan knelt beside a patch of grass, placing his hands gently on the soil. A quiet voice spoke directly to him, telling him of its desire to grow, to reach sunlight, to sustain the tiny creatures that depended on it. Ethan smiled, speaking softly. "I'll help you. Don't worry." Hours passed as he moved through the park, listening, understanding, and communicating. For the first time in his life, he felt truly connected to the world. It was not just human life that mattered, it was every form of life, every story, every struggle and triumph. He began to see patterns, ways in which humans, animals, plants, and even microorganisms depended on each other. It was a network of life so intricate that it made the human perspective seem small, yet his mind soared with the possibilities. By late afternoon, Ethan returned home, exhausted but exhilarated. The city outside had begun to glow in the warm light of the setting sun, and he noticed subtle changes in the way life responded to him. Birds flew closer, seemingly trusting him, and even the neighborhood dogs approached without fear. Leora appeared beside him, materializing from the same shimmering light that had first announced her arrival. "You are learning quickly," she said, her voice carrying that familiar mixture of admiration and curiosity. Few humans could adapt to this gift so well, so fast. "It seems your first wish was unexpected but wise." Ethan laughed softly, brushing a hand through his hair. "I didn't want gold or power. I wanted to see, to understand. And now I can't stop seeing. I feel everything, Leora. It's overwhelming, but it's amazing." "Yes," Leora said, her eyes sparkling. "The world speaks in many ways, and most humans never listen. But you have chosen to listen. That is rare. That is special." Their conversation was interrupted by a faint commotion outside. Ethan looked through the window and noticed a group of people gathering near the park. They carried cameras and devices, whispering excitedly to each other. From what he could hear, they were scientists, reporters, and even a few government officials. Something about the behavior of animals in the city had caught their attention. Birds were moving in unusual patterns. Dogs were assisting people, and even plants seemed to react when humans approached. Ethan's heart sank slightly. The attention he had drawn was not something he had wanted. He had wished to understand life, not to become the center of a spectacle. Leora floated beside him, sensing his concern. "Be careful," she warned softly. "Humans who notice change rarely understand it. They may see what you are doing as a tool, something to exploit. This is a risk that comes with great gifts." Ethan nodded, determination settling over him. "I can't stop helping, but I need to be smart. I need to protect this connection, for them, and for everyone else." He spent the rest of the evening thinking. He realized that his gift, while beautiful, came with responsibilities that stretched far beyond himself. He needed to find ways to help life without attracting harm, without allowing humans to misuse the connection he now had. It was a delicate balance and one he was determined to maintain. Days passed, and Ethan's ability to communicate with life only grew stronger. He could sense subtle shifts in the city's ecosystem, small changes that even the most observant humans would never notice. He guided bees to flowers in need of pollination, helped stray animals find food and shelter, and even advised humans silently through the whispers of nature, leading lost people to safety and helping gardeners protect delicate plants. Leora watched him during these days, increasingly impressed. "Humans are often considered fragile," she said one evening, her voice reflecting both thought and awe. "They destroy, consume, and dominate without thought. But you are different. You see beyond your needs. You see life itself. Perhaps humans are not as small as I once thought. Ethan smiled faintly, humbled by her words. I think we're capable of more than we realize. We just need to care enough to notice. One night, as Ethan walked through the quiet streets, he noticed a small bird struggling with a broken wing. Kneeling beside it, he whispered words of encouragement and guidance. The bird's pain was evident, its fear palpable, but Ethan remained calm. He felt its life, its will to survive, and slowly, carefully, he helped it to a safe perch. The bird chirped softly, as if in gratitude, and flew to a nearby tree where other birds awaited. Ethan realized that even small actions could have ripple effects. Every life he touched, every being he helped, contributed to a larger story of survival, connection, and harmony. The world was not just a place to live, it was a network of relationships, each vital and valuable. Leora appeared beside him once more, her presence gentle but commanding. You have learned much in a short time, Ethan. But remember, your gift is not without limits. There will be challenges, moments when life will test your choices. The second wish will require wisdom beyond even what you have shown. Ethan nodded, his mind already turning to possibilities. He knew that when the time came to make his second wish, it would not be for himself but for something greater. He wanted to continue building connections, to help humanity understand life as he now did, and perhaps to show the world the potential of humans when they chose compassion over selfishness. As the night deepened and the city settled into quiet slumber, Ethan returned to his apartment. He placed his hands on the small plant on his windowsill and whispered, "Tomorrow we keep learning. We keep helping. We keep listening." The plant responded with a gentle rustle, and the city seemed to sigh in response. Ethan understood now that his journey was only beginning. The first wish had opened a door, and beyond it lay a world of possibilities. The potential of humans, he realized, was far greater than anyone had imagined. With empathy, curiosity, and care, they could change not just their own lives, but the entire world. And somewhere in the quiet glow of the night, Leora watched him with admiration, realizing that this ordinary human had sparked something extraordinary, a reminder that even the smallest, simplest humans could be capable of greatness when they chose to see the world as it truly was. Ethan had settled into a rhythm with his gift, but the world around him was beginning to notice changes they could not explain. Birds moved in strange formations above the city, coordinating to guide people safely across streets. Dogs led lost children back to their homes, and even tiny insects seemed to help gardeners and farmers in subtle ways. For ordinary humans, these events were extraordinary, but for Ethan, they were just the voices of life speaking to him. At first, the attention was quiet, scientists posting observations online, reporters whispering about miraculous animal behavior. But it did not stay quiet for long. Soon news crews appeared near the park, cameras trained on every bird, every dog, every unusual movement. Ethan watched from a distance, feeling a growing unease. Leora had warned him that attention could be dangerous. Humans, when curious about what they could not control, often acted recklessly. Ethan tried to ignore it, focusing instead on helping the small lives around him. He guided bees to flowers needing pollination, helped stray cats find safe homes, and whispered to the trees to grow in ways that would support more life. Yet with each act, the crowd of humans grew, their curiosity intensifying. One morning, Ethan was walking through the park when he noticed a man in a lab coat observing a group of squirrels. The man had a notebook, scribbling notes furiously while the squirrels worked together in ways that seemed almost intelligent. Ethan could feel the man's thoughts. Curiosity mixed with greed, wonder mixed with ambition. "Who are you?" Ethan asked softly, his voice barely carrying over the hum of the park. The man looked up, startled, and smiled politely. "I'm Dr. Malin. I study animal behavior. Have you seen this? It's incredible. These creatures, they're doing things they never should be able to do. It's like they understand humans." Ethan felt a chill. "He does not understand," whispered the birds above. "He wants to control, not listen." "I see," Ethan said carefully, keeping his tone calm. "They are remarkable, aren't they? I think it is important to let them live freely. Not everything needs to be studied or controlled." Dr. Malin nodded slowly, but Ethan could feel his skepticism, his hunger for discovery that went beyond understanding. Leora appeared behind him, shimmering in the morning light. "You must be careful," she whispered. "Humans can be dangerous when they cannot control what they do not understand. You are drawing attention you cannot ignore." Ethan nodded, gripping his hands together. I know. I don't want to harm anyone, I just want to help. The tension in the city increased over the next few days. More scientists, journalists, and even some government officials arrived, hoping to witness or exploit the unusual events. Ethan watched as people tried to capture animals, record every movement, and even manipulate the environment to produce results. He realized that his gift, beautiful as it was, could also be misused. The very ability that allowed him to communicate with life was now putting that life at risk. That evening he spoke to Leora, frustration and worry in his voice. I wanted to understand, not make problems. I thought this gift was for helping, but now people are trying to take advantage of it. What should I do? Leora floated closer, her eyes full of thought. The humans you face are not evil, Ethan. They are curious, ambitious, and sometimes careless. Your task is to protect life, yes, but also to teach. You can guide them. Show them the value of understanding instead of control. That is what humans rarely see. They have the power to help, not just take. Ethan thought carefully. Leora was right. He could not hide forever, but he could influence others to see the world as he now saw it, connected, alive, and worthy of respect. It would take patience and cleverness. He had to find ways to guide humans without frightening them or causing harm. The next day, Ethan returned to the park with a plan. He began by observing humans from a distance, studying their behavior, and noting how they reacted to animals and plants. Then quietly, he guided life to interact with them in ways that encouraged empathy. A pigeon led a lost child to safety. A group of squirrels helped a gardener find missing tools. Flowers bent subtly toward people, creating a sense of wonder and care. Humans noticed these small miracles and began to smile, to wonder, and to feel a connection to the world around them. Scientists recorded their observations, but Ethan ensured that they never realized the full extent of his gift. Every step, every act was deliberate. He was teaching without revealing himself, shaping humanity to see that life was not just something to use, but something to understand and protect. Yet not all attention was friendly. Dr. Malin and a few others grew suspicious. They noticed patterns in Ethan's interventions, sensing intelligence behind the acts of animals and plants. They began asking questions that could lead them to Ethan, probing for answers, testing the limits of the strange events in the city. One afternoon, Ethan sensed danger before he even saw it. A group of people approached the park with nets, cages, and devices meant to capture animals. Birds warned him, trees whispered, and insects crawled with urgency. Ethan knew he had to act fast. He called upon the animals to move strategically, guiding them away from harm, while plants subtly blocked paths and distracted the humans. The people were confused, frustrated, and eventually left without causing damage. Ethan exhaled in relief, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Protecting life was more complicated than he had imagined. That night, Ethan and Leora spoke in quiet reflection. You handled that well, she said. But this is only the beginning. The humans who are curious will not stop, and there will be others who seek to exploit life for their gain. I know, Ethan replied, but I can't just run away. I have to show them another way, a better way. Humans can do good if they only choose to see it. Leora smiled softly, her glow reflecting the moonlight. That is why you are special. Most humans think only of themselves. You think of others, of all life. That is what sets you apart. That is what makes humans remarkable when they rise to their potential. Ethan felt a sense of pride mixed with humility. He was ordinary in appearance, but the choices he made, the empathy he showed, and the understanding he fostered were extraordinary. Humans were capable of greatness, of shaping the world in ways that no other species could, and he would be a guide, a bridge between humanity and the life that surrounded them. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's influence quietly grew. People in the city began noticing small changes, animals behaving more thoughtfully, plants thriving even in difficult areas, the subtle ways nature seemed to cooperate with humans. While no one knew the reason, the city became a more harmonious place, a reflection of what could happen when humans chose understanding over exploitation. Through it all, Ethan never grew tired of listening to life. Every day brought new lessons, new stories, and new opportunities to help. He realized that the first wish, simple though it had seemed, had given him more than a connection, it had given him purpose. He understood that humans, if guided wisely, could achieve incredible things. And that understanding, that empathy, was a power stronger than any gold, stronger than any weapon. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan sat on a park bench, watching a family of ducks cross a pond under his gentle guidance. Leora appeared beside him, her presence calm but radiant. "You have done well, Ethan," she said. "You have protected life, guided humans, and shown that understanding is a gift that can shape the world. But your journey is far from over. The second wish will test not just your mind, but your heart and courage. Are you ready?" Ethan looked at her, his expression thoughtful but determined. "I don't know what the second wish should be yet," he admitted. "But I know it has to be something that helps life even more, something that can change the world for the better. I can't waste it on myself." Leora's eyes glimmered with admiration. Few humans think this way. Most see the second wish as a chance to gain. You see it as a chance to give. That is why I believe in you, Ethan. That is why humans, despite their flaws, have hope. You remind me of what is best in them." Ethan smiled softly, a quiet resolve settling in him. He knew that challenges lay ahead, that others would try to exploit or misunderstand him, and that the world would continue to test his wisdom and compassion. But he also knew something else. He was not alone. Life itself was his ally, and through it he could guide humanity toward a brighter, more understanding future. As the night grew deeper, Ethan stood and walked through the quiet streets, listening to the whispers of life. Every voice, every story, every subtle movement reminded him of his purpose. Humans had the potential to rise above selfishness, to see the value of life beyond themselves, and to act with courage and empathy. And somewhere in the quiet glow of cosmic light, Leora watched, knowing that this ordinary human had begun to show the extraordinary potential of humanity, one choice, one act of understanding, at a time. The city had begun to change subtly but undeniably because of Ethan's gift. Animals moved with purpose, plants thrived in unusual ways, and humans started noticing the harmony that seemed to spread around them. Yet Ethan knew the world was far from perfect. Some humans remained careless, ambitious, or greedy. They did not yet understand the full value of life, nor the responsibility that came with knowledge. He sat in the park one evening, the glow of sunset spilling across the pond. Ducks glided gracefully over the water, birds chirped softly in the trees, and insects hummed quietly in the grass. Leora appeared beside him, her luminous form shimmering in the fading light. "The time has come for your second wish," she said gently. "It will be a greater test than the first. Are you ready to choose?" Ethan looked out at the park, at the network of life that now stretched before him, invisible but vibrant. He thought of humans who could change, of animals who depended on protection, and of the fragile balance that connected everything. He wanted a wish that would not just help him, but help the world in a way that would last beyond a single person's life. He began slowly, feeling the weight of the decision. I want humans to understand life as I do. Not just to see animals or plants, but to feel their needs, to respect their lives, and to protect the world with care." Leora's eyes widened, clearly impressed. Such a wish was unusual and bold. Most humans, even the clever ones, asked for power, wealth, or personal gain. Ethan asked for empathy, understanding, and responsibility for all life. "That is an extraordinary wish," Leora said. "It will change the hearts of humans, but you must be prepared. Understanding does not come easily, and not all will accept it willingly." Ethan nodded. "I know, but the world needs it. Humans can do so much good if they just see and feel the value of life." With a wave of her hand and a burst of cosmic light, Leora granted the second wish. A ripple spread across the city, touching every living being. Humans suddenly felt the presence of life around them. The trees whispered softly. Animals communicated their needs, and even plants seemed to move with intent. People paused, startled at first, then slowly began to respond. Children laughed as they realized they could feel the gentle guidance of birds. Gardeners smiled as flowers leaned toward them as if inviting care. Communities grew quieter, more thoughtful, and more attentive to the living world. Ethan walked through the streets observing. The city was alive in a new way. Humans were beginning to understand, to respect, to cooperate with life instead of exploiting it. The change was not instant or complete, but it was real, and it gave Ethan hope. Leora floated beside him, a soft glow around her. "You have made a difference," she said. "But remember, the third wish is your final one. It will define not just your legacy, But the future of this gift, choose wisely. Ethan thought carefully. The first wish had given him connection. The second had given humans empathy. The third had to be something lasting, something that ensured the good he had begun would continue, long after he was gone. He walked to the small shop where Leora had first appeared, the place that had started this extraordinary journey. There, surrounded by the artifacts and ancient objects, he made his final decision. I wish for you to be free, Leora, he said. Free to choose your own path, free to exist without being bound to the artifact or to grant wishes for anyone else. You have helped me, guided me, and seen the best of humanity. You deserve freedom too. Leora's eyes glistened with emotion, a rare expression for a being who had existed for centuries. Ethan, no human has ever wished this for me, she said softly. Most would ask for more power, more advantage. But you think of others before yourself. That is truly remarkable. With her freedom granted, Leora's light expanded, filling the room and then the shop itself. The bonds that had held her for centuries dissolved like mist in the sun. She hovered for a moment, testing her newfound freedom, then smiled at Ethan, radiant and unbound. Thank you, she said simply. Because of you, I will finally exist as I choose. And because of you, humanity has a chance to grow beyond itself. The city continued to change in subtle, beautiful ways. Animals, plants, and humans worked together more harmoniously, guided by empathy and understanding. People began noticing the small miracles of life, learning patience, compassion, and responsibility. Children were taught to care for animals and nature. Communities planted gardens and restored green spaces, and cities became places where life thrived. Not just humans. Ethan continued to walk through the streets, listening to the whispers of life. Birds flew overhead, sharing stories of their journeys. Trees swayed, recounting tales of seasons and storms. Even the smallest insects seemed to communicate their gratitude for his care. Every being, no matter how tiny, played a part in the grand story of life, and Ethan felt the joy of knowing he had helped humans see it too. Leora often appeared beside him, unbound and free, choosing her own path through the world. Sometimes she explored distant lands. Other times she watched over humans and life, offering gentle guidance when needed. She no longer had to grant wishes, but she remained connected to Ethan and the world he had helped transform. As months passed, Ethan's work grew in impact. Humans were learning faster than he could have imagined. People planted trees not just for beauty, but to support birds, insects, and other animals. Cities developed systems to protect habitats. Communities cooperated to reduce harm to the environment. Small actions grew into larger ones, creating a ripple effect across the world. Ethan realized that his wishes had done more than grant personal power. They had started a movement, a change in perspective that showed humans what they could become when they chose empathy, intelligence, and courage. Humans were not just creatures of ambition, they were capable of greatness, capable of shaping the world for the better. One evening, as Ethan sat beneath a large oak in the park, he reflected on everything that had happened. Leora appeared beside him, smiling gently. You have done more than I could have imagined, she said. Your first wish was for connection. Your second was for understanding. And your third gave freedom. Not just to me, but to the spirit of life itself. Humans will never be the same. Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. I didn't do it for praise or thanks. I just wanted to help. I wanted to see humans rise to their potential. And now they can. Yes, Leora agreed. And because of your choices, the world has hope. It is rare to see a human act with such foresight and compassion. You are truly extraordinary. Ethan looked out at the city, at the lights reflecting on the water, at birds flying home for the night, at the gentle rustle of trees swaying in the wind. Life was vibrant, connected, and alive in a way he had never imagined. He knew there would always be challenges, always humans who would forget or act carelessly, but the seeds had been planted. The potential for greatness was now within reach, and the world had a chance to grow into something remarkable. With Leora free and humanity learning to listen to life, Ethan felt a quiet pride. He had made no wish for power, wealth, or immortality. Instead, he had chosen empathy, understanding, and freedom, the very qualities that made humans special. And in doing so, he had proven that the greatest power was not in what one could take, but in what one could give. As the night settled over the city, Ethan rose and walked through the streets, listening to the whispers of life, feeling the heartbeat of the world. The city was alive with possibility, and he knew that the journey he had begun would continue, carried forward by humans who now had the choice to rise above themselves. Somewhere far away, Leora watched the horizon, unbound and free, knowing that the story of humanity had changed forever, and in the quiet glow of the city, Ethan walked onward, a single human who had reminded the world of its potential, one act of understanding, one wish, and one choice at a time.